Hello, and welcome back to the Commerce Collective podcast brought to you by Flywheel. My name is Emma Irwin, and I am your host for this podcast. As you already know, per that fun clip you just listened to, we are talking to Costco today. How cool is that? If you read Flywheel's recent white paper, The Big Shift, you'd know that we're pretty bullish on Costco over here. So let me show you why in this episode. But first, let's meet our guest who is absolutely worth a follow on LinkedIn. Just had to let you know that.
So hey there, I'm Mark Williamson. I'm currently Assistant Vice President of Retail Media at Costco Wholesale. And so in this role, my responsibility is building out the retail media business for the world's favorite wholesale club. Been here just about 2 years. I think in 2 weeks, I'll pass my 2-year anniversary, which it feels like it's been forever. It feels like it's been a couple of weeks that I've been here, but it's been quite the whirlwind for sure. Costco is my fourth stop on my retail journey. Started with the other wholesale club, spent 6 years there inside the Sam's Club and Walmart ecosystem, which was very exciting. This is back when shopper marketing was all the rage and retail media was a twinkle in somebody's eye. Amazon seemed to know what they were doing, and the rest of us were trying to figure it out. And then spent 6 years within Ahold Delhaize, working to build out shopper marketing and retail media for them. And then, as I like to say, I spent 1.5 years on the dark side, working with Citrusad and Epsilon, and got a little bit of taste of the agency holding company world, and didn't take long to realize that, you know what, I'm kind of better as a retailer. And so got the fortune of a lifetime and found an opportunity to join Costco, which has been awesome. I haven't looked back.
Amazing. And of course, this is a recurring question, but the first time that I actually get to ask about Costco. So I need to know the last thing that you purchased from a Costco.
Well, there's never just a thing.
That's true. It's kind of hard to do that.
There's interesting things and there's not interesting things. But my wife has been bugging me for a couple of weeks about these burrito tacos that are in our deli. So not the food court, but back in like the prepared food area. And so we'll kind of dabble in some of the prepared meals back there. And these burrito tacos were spoken about. And cost isn't necessarily a concern, although I do usually say, like, what's the cost per taco in this situation? And it's more like our family's big enough where one platter doesn't feed us all. And so this has been my excuse for why we haven't done it. But I finally pulled the trigger this week and they were phenomenal. So that's definitely the most interesting thing from my last transaction. And my wife was happy. She got the tacos she's been asking for. So we're good now.
Okay, so in this episode, we're going to do an overview of retail media at Costco, and then we're going to talk about data, the unified ID, and Costco's incredible identity fidelity. And then we'll get into how Mark's thinking about data accessibility and operability for advertisers and agencies, and we'll wrap up with some fun questions at the end. With that, I'm going to let Mark give us an overview of what retail media looks like at Costco. What's been built? What are the capabilities across the funnel? What's the goal? What's the internal investment level? Just all of that.
It's an evolving story. And so you get asked the question a lot. And every week it can change. We had a couple of really big releases this week. And so it's always a good idea to ask the question of myself or someone on our team, because it's been changing and will continue to change over the next several months and years. And so at this point, though, I would say we're about a year into our formal retail media journey in terms of the build toward what we want to be when we grow up. There's a lot of work to do. And so whenever, answering this question, I can spend as much time talking about what we can't do as what we can do. I think the thing that matters the most is the vision of where we're headed and the progress we've made since we've started. And so at this point, when, if we rewind the clock a bit, we've been very on-site centric for very many years, which makes a lot of sense. E-commerce is a big deal. Retail media and e-commerce go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's definitely the lowest hanging fruit, and it's easy enough for a retailer to get started, either through merchandising relationships or through a full service technology and sales partner. And so that's really what we've been doing for a long time. Over the last year, though, we've started to introduce, I think, elements of what our future will look like, which is Costco first-party data that is organized and accessible in a way that brands and advertisers can activate against it. And so we've used this new foundation of Costco data to introduce a new offsite offering. And so we did that. Really, we started to tinker around with it last holiday and have really ramped up over this last year, where we've introduced the ability to build custom audiences off of Costco first-party data, push that audience to a variety of activation points through a handful of different DSPs that we have partnerships with, and do omnichannel closed loop measurement against our online sales and our warehouse sales. This is none of this stuff is earth shattering. No one's going to give us any awards for the work that we've done, but for our company, this is a big deal. This is something that not only have we not been able to offer through retail media, we haven't used it ourselves, and so it's really been about unlocking more performance transparency for our advertisers, of course, but also for our merchants and for our marketers and those who have been very curious about what is the warehouse impact of an online media campaign. So that's really been the major focus for us this year. That's where we're at. We've spent a lot of time unifying our data into a single data set. Over the next year, we'll continue to pump more signal data into that data set, which will enrich our audience building capabilities, which will enrich our identity stitching capabilities. And then that just leads the way into better, faster, more transparent activation and performance. So this next year, we're very, very excited.
Got it. I'm curious, over the past year, do you find that the brand/manufacturers are like flocking to Costco to invest in retail media efforts? Or what is that vibe been? Do they really want to, or are you having to do some convincing here?
Yeah, it's a mix. I would say that the vibe is fairly universal curiosity.
Gotcha.
Like, I gotta know what's going on. And so there's no shortage of conversations. From an investment perspective, there are definitely some that are like, hey, we're here for it. Like Costco is a number one customer. Costco is a top 3 customer. My client, if it's an agency, my client said, figure out how to work with Costco. So there's definitely been some that have been leaning in, and we certainly appreciate their willingness to whether to be a beta partner or to just like pumping volume through a new system is always helpful. And so we learn together, we grow together. And so there's definitely been examples of that. I say in general, though, there's been a lot of nibbling around the edges, which is okay. Like we understand, there's some people like, I'll wait, be more mature, come back to me when you're ready, which is better than hearing we're just not that interested. Like that's never an answer. It's more like, yes, we want to be there on the cutting edge. We want to test, we want to learn, we want to design with you. And then there's ones like, hey, we'll invest where you have the capabilities we need. And then we have a few just like, yeah, I don't know what to make of this, or we don't have the managed service hands-on keyboard capability yet to be able to service. There's hundreds and thousands of Costco suppliers at any given time between national brands and regional brands, and all of the motion and movement we have in our assortment, which is kind of what we're known for. We have definitely staffed up the team quite a bit this year, and we'll continue to do so. But there are instances where we just do not have enough bandwidth to have all the conversations we need to. So it's been fun, but the response from the market has been really, really encouraging. And I think we're hitting the right notes. It's just, you can never go far enough, fast enough, but we'll certainly try.
Gotcha. I was going to do one more off-script question, but you kind of answered it. I was thinking, like in my head, I'm thinking of the total addressable market in terms of brand/manufacturers, suppliers in the Costco ecosystem. Like, is it finite in terms of, just because I feel like to have those warehouse items, your assortment is then much smaller on Costco than it is maybe elsewhere. Like, is there any worry about there being a finite number of advertisers out there? But it doesn't really sound like it.
It's weird because the answer is yes. Like we have a curated assortment, which means we have a curated number of suppliers, but it's a living, breathing supplier list. And so in the average warehouse, we have between 3,500 and 4,500 items. That's not a lot. I mean, there's a grocery aisles that have more items than that. And so like that seems like a small amount, but we do so much regional buying, we do so many in and outs, and there's just so much turnover of our inventory that within our item catalog, there could be 40,000 plus items at any given time. And so then that translates into the supplier relationships as well. And so I would say we are very much, we have much more diversity away from big CPG brands than I think other retailers will. We definitely have them, and they're definitely our largest suppliers. And we do a lot of consumables and a lot of food items. Like it's definitely a part of our business. But what we are very cognizant of is the fact that there are a lot of smaller, more regional brands that are doing significant business at Costco. And so the story needs to be told. These are the items that differentiate Costco from other places. These are the items that our members renew their membership so they can have access to. And so we have to be mindful of the fact that not only do they need probably a little bit more support from us when it comes to retail media activation, they are some of our best stories. And so when we're focusing on member relevance and reinforcing the value of membership, if we're not able to scratch them where they itch, then I think we're missing out. And so at one point, maybe 5 years from now, we'll do this interview again. And I'll say, hey, you know what? We ran out of suppliers. We ran out of advertisers. We're done. We hit the ceiling. It hurt my head. But for now, like we have the opportunity to focus on the headroom between us and our ceiling. But at some point, yeah, I might be like, you know what? This is about as big as we're going to get, because this is the reality of our business. And we're not there yet.
Have you ever gotten a push notification about a sale on your favorite cereal right as you walk into the store? And not only that, but you then see it on display by the entrance? That's the magic of an entirely connected shopping journey. Flywheel's expanded shopper media offering is here to bridge your gap between digital and physical. We use holistic data and creative touchpoints to guide shoppers from their phones to the shelf, and we can actually measure it too. Want to turn everyday errands into brand moments? Flywheel Shopper Media is your shortcut. If you want to learn more, head to the link in this episode description. This ad has still been brought to you by me. Back to the episode. My next kind of in terms of the general state of retail media at Costco, I, of course, listen to you across your entire podcast circuit. So I have a lot to work off of in terms of other interviews that you've done. But in your CPG Guys episode, shout out to our friends at CPG Guys, you mentioned that part of your role is to use retail media to drive more value for members. And Costco being such a member value-focused entity, what do you mean by that? Like, can you kind of break that down more specifically, how retail media really does drive more value for members?
It's a great question, and I think it's my favorite question. And depending on the day, I love the fact that Costco's member centricity is undefeated.
Yeah.
Because it is, as a member, as a consumer, it is refreshing, because every company, and especially every retailer, says the customer is number one always. And I think in general that's true, but I've never experienced a culture that means it to its core and will happily walk away from free money in order to maintain the reputation that they have with their members. And that's Costco all the way down. There are days where this reality frustrates me, because there's just opportunities sitting in front of us. There's things that we could do. There's decisions we can make. There's capabilities we can build tomorrow. If only we could get rid of this pesky member thing that kind of gets in the way. And it's like, I constantly, like, I have to be reminded, I have to remind myself that when you charge people to shop at your store, you are obligated to give them some value in exchange for that. And so I could say, you know, like say, okay, I could say to our leadership team, we could do $5 billion in retail media. We have so much data and so much engagement. And if we did this and that, and whether it's non-endemic or some other thing, like, it's just, we could totally do this. We could build a $5 billion ad business. Say, okay, that's fine. But what business are we in? We're in the business of selling memberships. And if we can't do both things at once, like, there's definitely an order of operations, or there's a hierarchy. And at the top of that hierarchy is his member base, signing up new members and keeping the members we already have. And unless I can demonstrate that what we're doing within retail media is in service to that, it's not just about do no harm. It's like, how can we use retail media to actually reinforce the value of membership? Because that's what we're all here for. We buy merchandise for membership. We operate warehouses for membership, every decision we do. And that's the filter we put on literally everything that happens, including in retail media. And it can be very frustrating and vexing for the people whose job it is to sell media. Like, man, this stuff is just obvious. We can do this, but we always have to strike that balance. And so, like, it's like, in general, I'm very grateful for the fact that Costco will not compromise their principles, so I can grow my career and my business. That's not what it's about. And so it forces us to think incredibly hard about the things that we'll do, about the investments we'll make. And I've been really, really pleased with how open-minded Costco has been to all of the crazy ideas. I don't hear yes all the time, but I always get the conversation, which is that's all we can ask for.
Someone will listen.
Yeah. The member will always win, no matter how strong my argument is. And I'm okay with that. All right. I'm excited to transition us into our next section, which is my favorite. And that's talking all about the power Costco has when it comes to its data. In order to shop at Costco, you need to use your member card. And that means that Costco's identity fidelity is kind of insane if it's all connected and used correctly.
And identity fidelity matters when you want to look at your return on consumer over time and reach them more efficiently over their journey with your brand. So I asked Mark to tell me more about the unified ID, what it means for Costco, and how this creates a differentiated playing field for brands versus other retailers.
Everything that we are doing, from resourcing our team and building out, capabilities from sales and account management, ad operations and product and all that kind of stuff, and all the audience building tools and the ad serving tools and all the AI and everything that we can possibly do is what everybody else is doing or has done. And so there's no differentiation in that part of our business. Ultimately, it comes down to how effectively can we organize and activate the data that's unique to Costco. And so, and everybody talks about their data, and as they should. The trick is how meaningful can that data be within the ecosystem? So do you have enough of it? Does it scale? Do you have the right signals? Do the signals connect with one another? And so people have been telling me since before I got to Costco, like, oh, Costco's got all this data. It's a ton of data. It's all, it's like 100% traceable transactions. And that's all true. But the ability to utilize that data is completely dependent on where it sits, how it's organized, how it's structured. Is it stitched to a universal member ID or not? And this has been the big challenge for us, is we have a ton of transaction data and we have a ton of ad exposure data. If the two data sets don't talk to each other, then it doesn't matter. And so that's really the trick, is like to take all of that deterministic data, all of that traceable transaction data, and put it into an ecosystem that has privacy by design and is ultra compliant. And that's kind of our mantra. That's our mantra, as we're over compliant, whether it's in terms of regulations or in terms of member trust, is making sure that we've accounted for all of the requirements that we need to be able to utilize this data in an effective way. And then putting it into an ecosystem, I'll use the buzzword, or a data landscape or whatever, but putting it into an ecosystem where it is usable, not only by Costco, but by our partners. And so I think the biggest thing for Costco is, like, yes, traceable transactions, but the nature of what we sell is so broad that it helps paint a really rich picture of kind of member interest, member preference, whether it's the way they want to be communicated with, what actually drives consumer behavior, and that which helps us then to model out what are the next best items that they might be interested in, or what is the next best item that we can show them that will demonstrate the value of membership. And so whether it's the mix between consumer electronics and food, or health and beauty aids and apparel, or the tire center, or the gas, or the travel, or the Costco auto program, or whatever it might be, there's a lot of signals in there that help us be a little bit more informed than other retailers might be. And I think of the grocery store I used to work for put together a customer 360. And so kind of go through and you look at all of the customer data and say, like, what segments does everybody fill in, or what attributes or interests do they have? And so just for fun, I was like, hey, pull my card ID and tell me what the data says about me. And what the data said was that I'm vegan, low sugar, and health conscious. And none of those things are true. Like, not even close. But what was happening was that the grocery store had a very small view of who I am and what my family is, because I was shopping them specifically for sales. And so I was buying a ton of zero sugar soda. And I was basically, every time that like a steak was buy one, get one, I would just go to town on that sale. And so I was buying a ton of protein and a ton of zero sugar soda. So then the data said something about me that wasn't entirely accurate. And I'm not offended by that. I think it's kind of funny. But with Costco, it's that's generally not how it works, because when you are shopping at Costco, you're not buying a house on a 30-year mortgage, but you're making an investment in a lot of product. And so there's this stickiness, and there's this loyalty that's kind of built in, not only to the membership warehouse, but then also to the item purchases themselves. And so I think that means something different for our members. It means something different for our brands, because that relationship runs deeper because of the dynamics of the warehouse environment. And so, like, we really want to lean in on that in the way that we utilize the data to drive decisioning, whether it's the decisions we make and what we send to members in email or on our website, or how we utilize that data within the advertising space. One thing that we've been doing is we have the people who have access to the data. And so we've been asking our advertising partners to say, if you had hands on keyboard, what would you do? And so that has helped us at least start the process of saying, okay, what data, what data sets, what tables, what combination of data is most interesting and most effective in the advertising space, because end of the day, we all want to drive sales. We want to drive growth. And we know that when our members are shopping, they're happy and they renew. And so this is really the flywheel that we are very, very committed to building, is good, relevant advertising, whether we are paying for it or a supplier is paying for it. We'll reach the right member with the right message. It will drive the discovery process, which will drive sales, which drives membership retention. And we think everybody wins in that scenario.
I was going to push you on the kind of the discovery side of things, because unfortunately, I'm not an avid Costco shopper because I'm one person and have never really felt the need for a membership. But I have to think that a lot of like moms and dads that are in there shopping for the family, they kind of buy the same stuff. And it's kind of a checklist. And I know people see things on end caps and then get exposed to new products all the time. But I think something really cool about retail media is just the ability to show new products in different ways and really drive that discovery. But if the data is showing you, or if you're not using the data correctly and you're showing a vegetarian family a chunk of meat, that's not working. That's not discovery. That shows you the right products that you actually want to buy. So it's cool that you have the data infrastructure eventually to be able to actually do discovery well.
It's the cliche, show me that you know me. We have so many cool stories to tell. And even though members come in and they get that big shopping cart and then meander around, there is no cart path. It's like just wherever, moth to flame, just wherever the wind takes you. That's the Costco shopping experience. You'll still never find, you'll still miss something, even after spending a couple hours in the warehouse. And so if you're a new item, if you're an exciting item, if you're a returning seasonal item, like just getting the discovery process started in the digital space can be super impactful for them, but also for the members. Like, oh yeah, I remember that item. I loved it last year, or there was a version of that, or I like that brand, or super interesting to me. And then like, just can we, like we talked about, it's the treasure hunt in the building. You're going to find the thing you never knew you always wanted. But like retail media can be a treasure map that starts the journey, shows them the treasure, and then says, hey, next time you're in the warehouse, or you better hurry up to the warehouse because these things sell out really quickly, whatever it may be. Like that's part of the Costco experience. Like I actually think that our members will be enthusiastic about that. And we see it today in social media, just with influencers that we don't pay, just people that fangirls and fanboys that are posting their favorite items. It creates a run on certain items. And like, can we create that kind of velocity and energy and excitement for a lot of the things we sell? I think the answer to that is yes.
For our last section, I wanted to ask Mark about operability within Costco's retail media ecosystem. What is it like for brands/advertisers and agencies to execute campaigns and extract the results?
On the operability side, like that's absolutely critical. And I'll be the first to admit that there's a lot of friction in how we operate today. And it's really just a byproduct of the fact that we have a lot of opportunity areas for suppliers, brands, and agencies to partner with us. They're all fragmented. They're in different departments, different P&Ls, different operating models, different systems, different roles, different technologies. And that's a problem. And so we've been working to consolidate a fair amount of that. We're starting our fiscal year here in a couple of weeks, and we are migrating a few, like our social business and our warehouse digital signage business is moving from the teams they've been on over into the retail media team, which will allow us to be a single point of entry for more activation points, and then will allow us to start to work that into our operating model, and then plug that inventory and then audience building and performance reporting for those channels within the ad tech stack that we built for onsite and offsite. And so we do have a big focus on operability. At some point, is there a grand retail media platform that's all self-serve and everything's there? Hopefully, but in the meantime, we're solving a lot of the operability for our partners through human interaction. But we've been making significant investments in laying the groundwork to be able to remove as many of those hurdles as possible. Because ultimately, I do think we owe it to our clients of retail media a much less friction-filled buying experience. And so like I said, this next year, we have some very, very exciting enhancements and releases that I think will be in service to that end quite well.
All right, my last section for you today is a quick rapid fire of 3 questions because, I just wanted to try something different out. Hey, why not? I'm going to ask you your favorite unsung Costco item.
There's a lot. I'm going to go with the most recent one for me. I'm going to go with the sticky rice. I ignored it for a long time. I didn't know it existed for a long time. I'm like, just cook rice. It's cheap. It's not hard to cook. Put in the rice cooker, whatever. But these are individual packs, like maybe 1 or 2 servings. You put it in the microwave for 90 seconds, and it's absolutely incredible. It's been life-changing for me. So it's just rice. Like, come on, it can't be that difficult. But I would definitely say it's an unsung item that everybody should be considering.
I would argue making sticky rice that's actually edible is much harder than regular rice. So I might get a Costco membership just for that. Wow.
I'm telling you, it's very popular in my house.
Gotcha. Okay. One myth about Costco that you'd like to bust. Are there any myths about Costco? But I'm curious.
Well, I mean, Costco is one of the most talked about retailers in the world, and it's generally in a positive sense, not always, but generally. I mean, the biggest myth, and this is just me, like I've worked for 2 different warehouse clubs now, and I think this is particularly true for Costco. And you mentioned earlier, you're a household of 1. I think it's a myth that you wouldn't love a Costco membership or that it wouldn't be worth it, because it's not just about bulk, and it's definitely not about cheap. And so it is about the highest quality item at the lowest possible price. And whether it's furniture or apparel or travel or gas, like even just gas, like, I don't know, like perhaps you live in the city and you ride the subway, but like we have members who just buy gas, and that in and of itself justifies the cost of entry. And so I think, like, when people do the calculus on this, they assume that there isn't sufficient value for them. Either they don't need the bulk, they don't have the space, or whatever. I would encourage everybody to rethink what the value of membership would be, because it's not just about bulk, and it's definitely not about cheap.
Subtle roast to the host. I like it. Very last thing for you. This is an easy one. What industry buzzword are you just ready to retire? Every time you hear it, you just want to like fork your eyes out.
There's a few candidates for this one, to be honest, but I'm going to go with the very obvious one, which is AI. And not that I'm anti-AI. AI is very much a part of our plans, and is a constant topic of a discussion. And I'm very animated by the opportunity. It's just the overuse of AI. And if I count, or like for every time either one of my incumbent providers or someone who's trying to sell us something, we've had AI built in for years. Like, according to that definition, I've been using AI because I use VLOOKUP tables in Excel. Like, it's not all the same thing, and it's really hard. This is my message to the business development community out there. Like, it's impossible for us to vet your AI solution. Like, you can describe it, you can put it in a slide, you can do whatever. Like, it is, everybody says they have it, and maybe everybody does have it. It's not a differentiator unless it can be proven in some way. And it is incredibly difficult for us to discern who's for real and who's not. And so, and I think that'll continue to be a challenge until there's, demonstrated performance that we can actually lean in on. But yeah, so it's a buzzword I'd like to kill, or it's a buzzword that's overused. I don't think I need to kill it. We maybe just lock it in a prison for a little while. Just let it chill out.
Boom. Mic drop. And that wraps up another episode of the Commerce Collective podcast. If you didn't know much about retail media at Costco, you sure do now. And you're super excited for what's to come because there is just so much potential here. If Costco is not in your current retail media playbook, reach out to us and we will help you lock in on this opportunity. And if you want more on the power of a unified ID and data accessibility, you can find our Big Shift paper in the description of this episode. Thank you to Mark for bringing the Costco POV to the show. I've been your host, Emma Irwin, and we'll see you next time.